Well, thanks. We're here with Lorenzo from Commercial Focus. Thanks so much for coming in, Lorenzo.
Great, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So wanted to get started in talking about some market trends and just get a general understanding for you and your brokerage in terms of service lines and things of that nature.
Well, as you know, most of my business personally is in the multi-residential market, and that's been a 30-year ride in this GTA, well, across Ontario and Canada, of course. Cap rates have been compressing, even as interest rates are going up a little bit now. They're still compressing, which is a function of supply and demand. There's a very little supply of apartments that ever come on the market for sale, and there's a lot of people who want to buy them. So cap rates just keep getting compressed and values keep going up.
So the supply can't keep up with the demand.
Well, the supply, it's so funny you bring up the word supply. Because of rent controls here in Ontario specifically, there hasn't been very, very little new construction of purpose-built rental. I mean, you hear about it in the newspaper in the last couple of years, they're building this, they're building that. That market is very thin. Just to give you an example, in the last 5 years, there have been 80,000 new condo units that have come on stream in the 416 area code. And there's only been 5,000 apartment building units built in the same period. So you can see that there's not a lot of new apartment units coming on the market.
Right. And so are we seeing this sort of influx of condo, not so much purpose-built rent being built because of rent control? And if that's the case, are a condominium rental, which we're surrounded by here in the downtown core, are those units then impacting the leasability of a multi-purpose built rental? Yes,
the real reason it comes down to economics why purpose-built rentals aren't being built. The ones that are being built are very high-end luxury rentals. That depth of that market is relatively thin in the city. Out of the 80,000 units that are being built right now over the 5 years that I've just mentioned, probably about 60% have been occupied by renters. So the question has always been, does that market, we call it a shadow market, is it really the shadow market of the rather than building purpose-built rental, they're building these condos, how does it affect the existing stock in terms of vacancy, rental rates, and that kind of thing? The answer is they're basically two different markets.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. The purpose-built market, most of the stock is over 30 years old, tend to be larger suites, the rents tend to be a lot lower. Whereas in the new market, it's the rents are very high. They're usually about 50 to 60% higher than the purpose-built market. And people, different markets niche. Like it's more younger people in the new stuff, and older people and families in the older stuff.
Okay. And so, is there a competition when it comes to sort of the generations of, for instance, my parents looking to downsize might be looking at a condo or a rental building unit, and then I've got myself who was also looking. If you're getting out of the house for the first time, maybe you're looking at a condo. So is there a competition amongst both asset types, would you say?
There could be. It's a little different. I mean, I think what's happened over the last 10 years with the affordability factor in the city of Toronto in terms of buying your first home. Everybody's first-time home buyer was a little detached bungalow somewhere. Those properties are now $1 million plus. So for someone coming out of the nest, looking to get their first property, detached homes basically are out of their reach. So what's basically happened is that the condo market has now become the first-time home buyers market. Is it a downsizing market? We're not really seeing that because people who are living in a house generally have a larger home, larger square footage. They're not moving into a 400 square foot postage stamp downtown. However, that is changing. Some developers now are looking at that marketplace and developing mid-rise, larger, like 1,200 to 2,000 square foot condo units, and still getting the high price per square foot as you would on the small ones, because people are downsizing from a $3 million home. They can afford to buy a $1.5 million, $2 million condo with all the bells and whistles.
Okay, fascinating. Yeah. Are you seeing with, obviously we've got Trump's always a conversation, whether we want that to be a conversation or not. But I've seen in the newspaper headlines, this increase in steel tariffs impacts to construction costs. Is that something that you find that you and your clients are sort of having to digest and understand what that means so maybe looking at a completely rebuild or a redevelopment of a property versus like a renovation scenario?
The cost of construction is always a concern, whether it's a Trumpian situation or not. However, the steel is a very big factor. Most of the buildings being built in the 416 are high-rise, and
Right.
It's going to be a steel structure. There is a lot of movement to mid-rise, looking at 6 stories and less, where you can build stick.
Okay.
That's more affordable. However, the jury is still out whether the market will accept that. I think over time it will. But construction costs are a big impacting factor in terms of the end product and what they're building today.
Fascinating. So we've got supply and demand challenges. Any other challenges that you have, uncovered and work alongside with your clients to overcome? Overall general sort of brokerage and working with your clients?
Well, there's always cycles. Everything is cyclical, right? And right now, the whole thing is the big challenge is where interest rates are going to go. The investment marketplace, which is 99% of my brokerage perspective, it's all tied to rates of return and ROI. So rates have gone up by 1% over the last year. There's talk about it going up a little higher. That's going to affect cap rates. That's also going to affect value. So that's one of the challenges right now. And another challenge is the lending community. They're getting very, very conservative on lending criteria. So 5 or 10 years ago, where you get 75% loan to value, it's down to 60%, 55%, which means you have to come up with more money to buy the product, which means you only have so much money around to spend to buy a product.
Yeah, and being a broker and being in the industry for so long, especially successful within the asset class of multifamily, how important is it to you and ultimately to your clients for you to know everything that's out there in the marketplace, whether be on market or off?
It's very important. I mean, data is key in our business, and knowing what's out there in the market, what's happening in the market in various market niches is very, very critical. In terms of the apartment segment, which I work in, not too many buildings are listed for sale in the market. It's all direct deals. So the broker that has the best knowledge and best connection in the marketplace and can deliver that to their clients is the person who gets the lion's share of the business.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah. Tremendous insights. Thanks so much,
Great. Thank you. Thanks for
Lorenzo.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming in.